Hello, my beautiful, powerful, everyday women of the world. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the Startup Stories podcast, where the ambitious everyday woman is heard, held, and served in life and business. I'm Mia Frankel, your host, and I'm bringing you relatable stories and relatable guests to keep you sane, grounded, and growing as you expand yourself and deliver your purpose to the world. This podcast focuses on real day-to-day experiences of being a purpose-driven woman building something meaningful. You'll hear authentic conversations, insights, and tips to normalize the journey and warm your heart. A little bit of a new intro there, Katie. You're one of the first guests, I think, to hear that version of it.
Oh, I love it. It's great.
Thanks. I thought I'd start announcing my name in the intro because I never have. Like, maybe I should really own who I am. This is my show.
Yes.
So you guys, Katie Cooper is joining me today. Katie was introduced to me through a mutual friend of ours. And what's really cool is Katie and this friend Sasha actually live in the real world together. Their kids go to school together, they're involved, their lives are intertwined. So I feel like I already know Katie and her heart. And the parts of her story that I know I'm really excited to share with you. So, Katie Cooper is a board certified health and wellness coach who supports moms in reducing their stress and overwhelm so they can live their lives with energy and passion. This was Katie's journey herself as she had to overcome like burnout and hustle and working hard and raising young kids and then dealing with the pandemic, and her revelations and healing journey are now being paid forward through her coaching practice. And what I love, love, love about most of the guests that come on the show and that I'm going to highlight with Katie is how authentic and real and like in line at the grocery store with us she is, right? Like she's not an entrepreneur serving the $1 million makers. She's serving us, just us regular good old girl next door gals, who are wanting a little bit more out of her every day and needing some grounding and regulating, like true wellness, not just diet and exercise, but nervous system wellness, right? So, Katie, I'm super excited to have you. And I've kind of structured the conversation. This has been the flow that's always been there. And I'm just trying to organize myself a little bit more to lead us through it. So I'll lay it out for you as to who you were before you started your coaching practice. And then what was the seed that started to sprout and, things that you noticed shifting as you started to pursue your business, what you've learned about yourself on the way, where you are now and what's next, and what would you go back and tell your younger self or a new and aspiring entrepreneur? And then anything else at the end, a coaching tip, talk about your freebie, talk about yourself, etc. So thanks so much for joining me today. And anything that you want to add, edit, or delete so far?
Oh no, that was like one of the most thorough intros ever. And I appreciate how you kind of put all the pieces together. That was beautiful.
Awesome. Thanks. Awesome. So, Katie, like, tell us about you. Tell us about who you were before and how this transformation started. And, like, do you even recognize who you used to be compared to who you are now?
Yeah, I'm in this really interesting phase of my journey right now, which we'll get to in a little bit, but it has provided me a lot of time to kind of reflect on where I came from and how I got here. And so I think it goes back to like my childhood. I always wanted to be somebody who was in a helping profession, whether it was helping people or helping animals. And I decided to become an occupational therapist in seventh grade, which is pretty early and a not well-known profession to
Yeah.
pick. But I was lucky enough to be introduced to an OT
Mhm.
in seventh grade through Girl Scouts, and I said, "Oh, that's what I want to do." And I spent my entire schooling from then on, with this goal in mind. I am going to graduate. I'm going to become an occupational therapist. And, luckily, 10 years later, I still enjoyed it when I finally got out of school and
Uh,
had my master's degree. And I got into the profession and really decide like felt like I'm gonna go for all in. This is my life. I'm
Mhm.
gonna make such a difference in the world. And I did make a difference. I've seen a lot of patients. I've made a lot of impact. But working in the healthcare industry is a very challenging world to be in, and it kind of beats you down over time. And throughout different phases in my career, I suffered burnout based on just the demands of the job, the patients I was working with, the insurance hoops you have to jump through to get paid.
Mhm.
And I think the biggest phase of burnout for me was during the COVID pandemic and having to continue to take care of my patients.
Mhm.
But at that time, I was also a mom of two young kids,
Mhm.
and I had to come home and keep them safe. And I had to figure out a work life balance with my husband and I. We were both trying to work and the kids not be in daycare. And
Mhm.
me being in the front lines, being exposed to this
Yeah.
virus, we
So
really
you
didn't.
maintained your
Yeah.
in-person consultations throughout the
Yes.
pandemic. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. And I hit a wall where I wasn't functioning anymore.
Yeah.
I had severe anxiety. I had horrible fatigue. There was no amount of sleep that was going to make me feel rested.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
I felt like I was failing in all of my roles.
Mhm.
And it was at that point where I decided I needed to make kind of a big overhaul to really like heal myself and take better care of myself going forward. Um, and part of that was, um, going to therapy and
That-
leaning on
Yeah.
support from my
Great.
friends and family
Yeah.
and rest and
Mhm.
really just, deep recovery mode. But once I start to feel a little bit better, I decided to enroll in health coaching school. It had been kind of
Mhm.
always in the back of my mind. I had
Mhm.
a health coach after my first daughter was born, and it really helped me kind of like
Mhm.
rejuvenate myself and find myself after this huge transformation in my life. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to enroll in health coaching school for myself to keep me accountable, to dive deeper into health and wellness, these things I really enjoy. I had no intention of becoming a coach. I
Okay.
just wanted to do something for me.
Okay.
And then during that time, through health coaching school, I was like, oh, wow, we all need this in
Yeah.
our lives. Especially, at that time, I was really focused on healthcare professionals. We were still in the pandemic. I was like, oh, all healthcare professionals need support. We're so good at giving to others, but not great at taking care of ourselves.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
and I decided to really just dive into like, how can I support my fellow professionals in this crazy life we're in,
Yeah.
this crazy world we're in right now? Um, and that was really that was kind of a pivotal moment for me. I created like a corporate wellness program at the
Beautiful.
company I was working for to help support the clinicians in that
Mhm.
practice to prevent burnout, to find better work life balance, to manage the stress of the job. And that was amazing. And now I've made a pivot this year to really focus on moms because I'm a mom and it is not easy. We all know this.
Yeah.
Um, there's a lot that gets thrown at us, and it can be really easy to put ourselves last on that to-do list. So it's been an amazing journey so far, and I'm excited to see what comes next.
So help me here. Are you still working in the OT industry?
I am, yes, part-time. I am making a big shift. Actually, this week is my last week in my corporate leadership roles.
Wow.
So I'm diving more into my business
Yeah.
now
Yeah.
and ta- taking some things off my plate so I can do
Yeah.
that.
Okay. So you guys really listen here. Listen to what Katie laid out for us. Working, pandemic, little kids who are school age now, elementary school age, right?
Yep.
So we trace this back. Picture ourselves, a handful of years ago. all of this is happening, and now the walls kind of start closing in, and we're feeling the weight of it. And Katie decides in that moment to elevate rather than continue to be crushed. And that's the power move, right? Is making a decision and then moving to action to follow through on it. And appreciate then that Katie was still working, still navigating pandemics, still navigating her healing journey, and now taking on a life coaching program, which is time intensive, right? And is part of the healing journey, but is another element. So I just want to really make that clear to you guys listening, because did she come up with excuses? Did she come up with can't or wait? No. She went for it and just kept kind of, I love this analogy, adding ingredients to the recipe to see how it was going to cook out. And now it's baking and settling, and you're able to see what next. Like, if I'm going to get really crazy with this analogy, how are we going to serve it? What are we going to accessorize it with? How are we going to make it next time, even? So that's really beautiful, because it's easy to say, I can't yet. I've got too much going on. But Katie, would you like tell us what it was like then to hold all of that, and how it helped you grow into the capacity to hold that and come to this place in this exciting new chapter that's happening live right now?
Yeah, I think that the analogy of just like slowly adding ingredients and kind of figuring it out. And there were times where I was like, I nope, I can't do this. I kind of put my business to the side and I said, you know
Yeah.
what? No, this isn't right. But I finally got to a point where it's like, I can't sit on this anymore. This is too important.
Mhm.
This work makes me feel too good.
Mhm.
Like it's such a mutually beneficial work that we do where my clients get so much out of it. I get so much out of it. I just can't leave it to the
Mhm.
side anymore. It
Mhm.
has to come. I have to make space and time for it. But it took a while to get there. It wasn't easy.
Mhm.
And I think part of it was getting out of my own way
Mhm. Of course.
and letting go of the fears that I had. And
Yeah.
there's still some trepidation with this big transition happening this week. But I think having the support in place of the family, of friends, of my colleagues, and knowing that it will work out. I just have to keep working at it. I just have to put one foot in front of each other each day,
Yeah.
and I'll get there.
Yeah. 100%. And that's all we can do, right? But with the piece that leads us is the vision that we're working to. And now, you guys, Katie has evidence in her life that her vision is working. So she's willing to so-called take a greater risk and step further and further into that vision. And that's how you get the results. That's how this transformation happens, is truly just by walking it, and walking it with like a willing spirit. And I'm going to say, and try me on this, Katie, but like enough self belief to just take another step at a time. I find, and again, converse with me around it, but the coaching industry sometimes tries to take us a little too far too fast, right? If, in terms of, encouraging and trying to lead us into creating bigger coaching businesses. And there's discernment required for you to lead yourself and decide. And if we break it down to a step at a time, knowing what our destination is intended to be, then we can close that gap with like some nervous system safety and support along the way, right?
Yes, I think when I look at the end goal, it's very scary.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't think I can actually get there. But when I look at, okay, this week, here are the 5 things I have going on.
Mhm.
Here's what I need to prep for the next month. I can do that.
Mhm.
I can focus. And if I focus on that, it's like yes, I can move forward. I can do this. And also, I think looking back at what we have accomplished is so important because we forget how many hard things we have done before,
Right?
how many challenges we have overcome,
That's right.
how we have made it through every hard thing we've done before.
Hmm.
And if we keep reminding ourselves of that, it makes the new thing less scary.
That's right. Yeah, like we're grown women, we're mothers, career, business owners, all of the things. And we negate the lived experience, leaving a hard relationship, moving to a new town, even interviewing for different jobs, securing a career, completing schooling, that led to that career. These are all big things that we discount because the business is so emotional. It's
Mm-hmm.
so emotional and it means so much. But if we simplify that, Katie said it perfectly, it feels too good not to do it. The aliveness, the activation when you're delivering your work and somebody's receiving it is a beautiful reciprocal cycle, right? That elevates you and affirms the path forward. And that's a beautiful thing. And if you're not doing it, you're not getting that newer evidence to keep you encouraged and moving that way. So it's easy to make excuses. But if there's one thing you can do a week to stay with even one foot on the path towards your vision, you will naturally, as Katie described, naturally just start to follow. When she did her coaching program, she wasn't intended to become a life coach, but it started to activate things that were there. And that's how we can really start to embody and transform ourselves. It's not metaphysical, it's like boring and mundane decisions one day after another until you're making what, like a shift in decisions and choosing your time and your energy in slightly different ways and then reaping the rewards of them.
Absolutely. And I think the other part of it is not ignoring your gut feeling. I think for the last year or two, I knew I needed to make this shift, but I resisted it. I was like, no, I do love the company I work for and I
Mhm.
did, do love the work I was doing, but it wasn't what I needed anymore. I needed something different. And I resisted that for so long until it almost like hit me in the face. Like so many things happened where it was like, you have to go. You got to take this leap. It is time. And I finally was open enough to like hear that and like understand it, where I was like, oh, yeah, I've been hearing this message for a long time, but I haven't been listening. And I started to listen to myself and to everything going on around me. And it's like, okay, yeah, it's time. I got to do this.
I love that. That's the catching up
Yeah.
of the present self to the vision, to the future.
Hmm.
And that just really normalizes because I want to be clear, I'm not negating or like putting down, growing a massive Oprah-sized business. What I'm saying is being gentle as you go and integrating, really integrating to, let's use this analogy, avoid injury, right?
Hmm.
Don't work out harder than your body's capable of to avoid that injury and acclimatizing to that. So, Katie, now I'm really curious. I want to know more about these last 2 years and about what this current transition really means for you at this stage.
Yeah. So, I mean, the last 2 years, I've been kind of pushing in my corporate role to get to a higher level, to achieve, a different title where I had
Uh,
more impact, where I
Right,
could do more of the work that I enjoyed.
right,
And it didn't happen. And it kept not happening. And
right.
as much as I pushed, it wasn't going to happen.
Okay.
And I had to finally accept that,
Mm,
actually, this is probably a really good thing because you had this
mhm,
side business for a long time
mhm,
that you haven't been putting the energy into because you haven't. You've been putting all the energy into the corporate role, right? And now it's like, oh, my energy shouldn't be going here to where I'm kind of like up against a wall. I can't
Mhm.
push anymore. Put the energy into this business. And that feels, while scarier,
Yeah.
much lighter,
Yeah.
where like, oh, I have the control now.
Mhm.
I get to pick and choose what I'm working on. I can make the difference here.
Mhm.
Whereas in this other world, as much as I love the people I worked with and I love the work I was doing, I wasn't making any more impact. I had made the impact I could, and
Right.
it was time for me to go on my own so I can make a bigger impact
Mhm.
in the way I want to.
Mhm. So much of that is landing. It is so like, oh my God, my blinders are being lifted. You guys, I'm going to share something really vulnerable because I need to take it to that level of authenticity. I'm scared to rely on myself to make my own money, right? So I
Mm-hmm.
hang on to the job as a safety net. But if you can build and acclimatize into the trust that Katie's going through right now and see that you can create your own stream of revenue, like that's what business ownership is in any single um, iteration of it, right? Like a coffee shop to a grocery store to a gas station to a nail salon, they're all relying on themselves to drive that business. So the evidence is there. We know it's possible. Then we find the way that it's going to work for us. And when you have, to me, that's the biggest bit. That's the biggest bit for me is the money. The money equates safety and equates continuity of lifestyle and bills getting paid, etc. So eventually it sounds like you get to that point where you've created that evidence and you can really trust yourself. And then I guess the adrenaline and the excitement of where else can you take it comes in. And then that's when the business can start to grow and scale and, the impact can increase. And all of that really just means a little bit more freedom, freedom to not come up against the institutional restrictions that we face in a corporate environment, right? Not all
Mm-hmm.
corporations are necessarily stodgy, but there's this certain, I don't know, it's like a weird vibe that they all are just kind of like blocky copy paste models of each other. I work in local government up here in Canada and it's an amazing little organization, but it's still kind of just like the bigger guys, you know?
Yep.
And so now you get to break free of that. And when we let go, we can start to lean into even more creative and what's possible mindset because you know what's not possible. You've just iterated, you know what's not going to be possible at work. And it's sad because you know the benefits that your workplace would get and even the benefits that you would get if only you could. But I just really want to honor and appreciate while also kind of like embodying that too, because it's exactly the same for me. I still have these like naive ambitions that a higher position will come, and it's very unlikely for a while, at least, if ever. And so if you can let go of that, you can start to make space for something else and create your own possibility.
Yeah. And in full transparency, I am still keeping some patients on as an occupational therapist. I'm
Mhm.
still bringing in a little bit of income
Yeah,
because it
great.
is, it's a big transition. And like you said,
Yeah,
there's some money concerns there, right? Like we got to pay the bills still. And so as I'm building this business, I still will have some income coming in. And then I can hopefully taper that off as the
sure.
business grows. But I think the other thing that, one of the things I've been doing this year to really work on kind of the mindset around this shift is seeing the opportunity in the challenge, right? So when I got the no that I'm not going to get the promotion, or no, we're not going to be able to do this with the program you want to do. it's devastating at first, right? That hearing that no. But then I started to explore, well, what's in it for me here? What is this gift and opportunity in this no? And it was really, oh, this is another signal that
Mhm.
it is time for me to go do this thing that I've been wanting to do for a long time.
Mhm.
And I've finally gotten enough no's
Yeah.
to say
Go
yes
this
to
way.
me.
Go this way.
Yeah.
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 And I probably need to say thank you to all of them
Right.
because otherwise I probably would have stuck it out
Yeah.
and I would have never invested in me and my company.
Yeah. Yeah. And, it's great to have multiple streams of revenue. And it's
Hmm.
great to, again, allow the nervous system to ease into it before it hijacks you and you freeze and don't do anything. So I love that because you don't need to quit and run off into the sunset in the field of flowers with your business, la la la. You can take, again, those smaller steps to get there. And Katie, honestly, just listening to you talk about your vision, I feel like I can feel your future and that these things are coming because you've built the certainty inside. You've not looked at the external circumstances to um, make the internal decisions. What you're doing is assessing and then deciding for yourself based on what you have, right? And that's the inner work that grows us into a more sustainable entrepreneur is
Yep.
really that self assurance. And that self assurance has to come from within. If you're relying on external things, you're always going to be vulnerable and reacting to them. But it's not, I wouldn't say it's control because things are going to happen and go wild. But if you guys didn't hear, other pieces of what Katie talked about was like a plan and like a staged or tiered evolution. And she talked about the buy-in with the family and your spouse and having those conversations and looking at money, not just pie in the sky, I'm gonna quit my job and become a millionaire overnight. Like it's methodical and it's thoughtful, which again allows for a sense of safety and also like just good old being practical, right? Like
Yeah.
there's nothing wrong with any of that. It's a very, again, relatable and everyday woman example of, I'm going to say, like a holistic approach. It's a very healthy, in line with like your coaching practice, diet, exercise, rest, restoration. Because Katie's freebie is 10 quick tips to reset the nervous system. And they're not, sorry, industry, but like they're not cheesy. They're actually very somatic and integrative and they hit the soul, not the surface. Wow. all the fun little words are coming out this morning. And so your transition plan hits on those notes. So how are you feeling? Like you must be just bursting with excitement.
I am excited. I think, still there's still like some stress and fear, of course.
Yeah.
But I think I'm finally in this point where I can let go and I can really just embrace. I'm so looking forward to next week
Hmm.
when my schedule changes
Hmm.
and I have space and time to finally focus on the business in the way I want to and can block it out. And I'm just looking forward to having a little more peace around it instead of it just being like this thing that I need to fit in somewhere in the chaos of everything else. Yeah, so very excited.
Yeah, I get that. So you created your own freedom and now you can change your schedule and you're going to trust yourself to use that time the way that you're going to use it and adapt to that. So I'm already like, I want to have a conversation with you, say in January and see how
Yeah,
it's going because that's going to be a whole other transformative experience, right?
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. So why don't you share with us, now we've kind of covered, where you were, where you are, what's coming. What are some things that you would play back to yourself even before you thought you'd become a life coach? Like, let's do this juxtaposition of, say, 5 years ago in the timeline. And, what might you want to go back and say to yourself, and then to that new aspiring entrepreneur as well?
Mm. I think, um, you know, going back, 5 years or so, and remembering how awful I felt
Mm,
in that burnout phase and how low I was. I think I wish I could say to myself, like, it's going to be so amazing. Like, you're going to feel so different. You're going to make such a big impact.
yeah.
This, that burnout was so pivotal
Mhm.
in changing my life and my trajectory that I almost have to say thank you for it, because otherwise I don't know where I would be. I would probably be stuck a bit more, in that world still. And I think earlier on in my, to a new entrepreneur, it's like, just don't give up on it. And I gave up a couple different times and I just put it to the side. And I wish I hadn't. Um, I would be in a very different spot. I think you also have to just trust the process and
Yeah.
trust where you are.
What I'm hearing in that is what you said earlier about embracing the growth in the challenge, right? Like, what a beautiful way to go back and say, that way that I was feeling, that on the floor broken moment, was the beginning of something entirely new, and a shedding, and like a way to start to release the stronghold of your identity into something new. You had to shatter it. You had to get to that point, let go, so that that new space could come in, like light trying to crack through a shroud of darkness, right? And then to it always feels like looking up to the heavens, like, whoa, where is this whole other world? I didn't know I was so attached to what was. And that allows for a more fluid life experience in general, anyway. Because when you release that, the way you show up as a mom, as a partner, softer, bigger, and just, more aware, um, and again, open and creative, rather than just, this is all there is just this, which ironically we were talking about earlier, is the way that corporations tend to run, like, whether it makes sense
Right.
or
Yeah.
not. One of my jokes at work is like, well, if it doesn't make sense, that's how we do it. Right? Like, and and now you've cracked the matrix, and you can start to
Yeah.
play in the other side of it, which is so awesome. So I'd love for you to share, some coaching tips then, based out of your practice, to the everyday woman who's working and
Mhm.
hustling and, trying to get to that place of peace and possibility that you're in and growing into, to support her based on your work experience and your coaching and your heart. Like, what would you say to her?
Yeah, I think the number one thing that I love to talk to my clients about is self-care. Like, we need to reframe self-care for ourselves. I think when we look at what society and what media puts out around self-care, it's like it's a nice to have. It's massages and bubble baths and, things that cost money. But in reality, self-care is turning off our stress response.
Mm,
So every day we have stressors thrown at us that turn on our stress response, that fight or flight or freeze. And in our modern world, we are inundated with stressors. Like, we just read the news, you'll be stressed.
mhm,
The email that comes in from work, the traffic you sit in on your to work. There are stress. The problem is our brain doesn't know the difference between a stressor like a lion coming to eat us or
Yeah.
the email we have to respond to. It's the
Yeah.
same response. And we have to take time to turn it off. We have to take time to tell our brain we are safe. And so I do a lot of work around how do we do that quickly and effectively in our day on a regular basis, turn off that stress response. And when you start to do that, you start to regulate your nervous system and you feel so much different. You're not in survival mode anymore.
Mhm.
You're now able to actually like function. Your brain can be clear again. You can be fully present with your kids and your family. And that shift is so important for every person to do. And it links to my freebie because in the freebie, I give you 10 very quick ways to do that. And you can
Yeah.
kind of pick and choose like a menu. Today, I'm going to do this one. Tomorrow, I'm going to do that one, and whatever works for you. But if you take a few minutes each day, it's amazing the difference you'll make over a couple days.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, thinking about your next week in real life, embodying those allows you calm and peaceful. And that is a phenomenal way to live your everyday life. I should say a powerful way. It's the name of the business. A powerful way to live every day of your life in a state of peaceful reaction, calm, and not constantly letting the nervous system get hijacked or hijack you. Because the nervous system is the body, but the self is the spirit, or the soul, if you prefer, right? The
Mm,
internal consciousness. And it does have more um, domain over just the mechanics of our body. And that's what I'm hearing you say. And it's applies to business, like you said, to motherhood. Like I was so addicted to my business a few years ago and wanting that dopamine hit and, checking and like, that I wasn't being present in other relationships. I wasn't being present with my daughter. And now I'm like, I focus on that when I focus on that. And I just do the one thing that I'm doing at that time versus like trying to think about everything all the time, right? And it's so much more, again, calm. And then you can go deeper into all of it too. You like settle
mhm.
in, you like warm and cushy and just sort of like jello in this conversation right now between you and I, right?
Exactly.
In waking my daughter up when we're done to get ready for her last week at camp. Like, and what's been so good for me, because I have a fire energy, is like now I can, let's see, I can just kind of burn steady like a fireplace, right?
Mhm.
And it's healing 43 years of like, not necessarily overreacting, but of that stimulus that you talk about. And I think that's where beautiful holistic self leadership comes from. And from there, I mean, that is health. What you described there, Katie, that is 100% what health is.
Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. I'm so excited for you. I'm so proud of you, for taking these steps. And I just can't wait to watch you continue to soar and um, become even more like saturated in the you and in your life's purpose. It's just wonderful, wonderful to see. And especially, again, you guys, just a very everyday woman, right? Making beautiful, intentional choices with good support around her and beautiful self-awareness. Like listen to the episode again. You can catch um, how Katie navigates and leads herself through this. And, you have a very grounded presence. So I love that because I'm like a puppy. I get so excited about everything. And that's okay. I'm working with it. But
Mhm.
you embody just a very like realist and um, open state of being that has a lot of value. So that's encouraging listeners. Hear it again, like listen to Katie a little bit deeper and see how she's leading herself forward.
Oh, thank you, Mia. Appreciate it. So sweet.
My pleasure. So where do we follow you? Where are we going to come hang out with you and lift you up and get involved and get coached by you and change our lives?
Yeah, so social media, I'm at Katie Cooper Wellness, and my website is katiecooperwellness.com.
Perfect. Great. And we'll put all that in the show notes, y'all, as usual. And I just thank you for this beautiful conversation and for spending the morning with me.
Thank you so much, Mia. This has been wonderful.